You are on the metal bar and joining us out of, well, actually, I'm not sure where he is. I assume he's in Canada, but you never know these days where he might be. The lead singer and frontman for Kataklysm, Maurizio Iacano, joins us. Maurizio, g'day to you, mate. Where do we find you?
Well, right now I'm in Orlando, Florida. So I'm definitely far from Canada. I lived in Canada for most of my life, I would say, but the last 20 years I've been in the United States. So I was living in Chicago for the last almost 20 years, and then I moved down here 3 years ago. So in 2020 I moved down to Florida, and that's where I reside now. So this is my home. No more snow for me.
I was going to say, why do the cold if you don't need to, right?
Right, exactly. So
Yeah, Quebec
yeah,
to Quebec to Chicago. It's not such a move, but Miami,
but
Florida,
yeah,
yeah,
Orlando,
Orlando.
yes,
Sorry, yeah.
yeah, big Mickey Mouse, you know.
Hey, now the new album, Goliath. It's your 15th record, 14th, I think you've done through Nuclear Blast, man. Do you
Right.
kind of look back at that as being that kid that started this band and go, if you told me I'd be doing this 15 albums later and 14 of them would be through a label like Metal Nuclear Blast, I'd just shake my head.
It's hard to conceive when you think about it. Like when you think about it, it's like, wow, you know. I definitely didn't think when I first started this that it would go that far, you know. But we never stopped and never stopped to think about it. We just did things, right? And worked hard on it. We believed in it. We took it as a career at the same time as a passion. And I think that's what drove us to come all the way here. And we've always been that band that's been consistent. You know, we've never been like that band that goes up and down, up and down. We've just been consistent in our career and just doing what we love with passion and truth to it. And I think that's why we are still here, you know.
And still delivering, man. I mean, Goliath is a fucking beast of an album. I mean, like
Thank
I loved Unconquered, but Goliath, it feels like, you know what it felt like to me, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, but if Unconquered, it felt like you guys embraced a bit more thrash. But this album feels like you've gone, you know what, fuck that, we're a death metal band, and this is just full noise death metal, hit you in the
right.
face from the go.
It's just more aggressive record, more aggressive record. It has James Payne on it, the new drummer that joined Cataclysm, Conquered, and this one has two different drummers on it. We were having issues with our old drummer, and you could tell that there was a chemistry issue towards the end there. But as soon as we made the switch, started touring with James first, we became brothers right away, you know, like the old days, like when we had that chemistry. And then we got into writing this record, and it just came in naturally, you know what I mean? And he's an aggressive drummer, like, so he brings but the cool thing is that he said, I want to keep the tradition of Cataclysm going, and I'm going to bring my style to it, but I want to keep that hyper blast in there. I want to move things around and but keep it traditional, you know. And that was awesome for us to hear, because drummers have they're aliens, so they have their own fucking way of thinking. So it was a welcome aspect to the lineup, and that made that change. So it's more aggressive. It was written during about, you know, towards the end of the pandemic. I would say all of 22 we were on that record. So you have a lot of that in there, you know, that anxiety of, like, you know, fuck everything, you know. So it's like, so that's the feeling around it. It's got drama, it's got aggressiveness, and it's got that anger in it, you know.
Yeah, you can definitely feel that. It's like every song, because I downloaded it, right? Downloaded it from the iPool thing that Nuclear Blast sent you.
Yeah.
And the way I've got it set up is I have to play each song individually. Like, it's not going to just play the
Okay.
album, right? So
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay, so it gives me a focus point, and every time I started a song, it smashed me in the face with a hammer. It was there was no
that was
no
the goal.
there was no foreplay with any of these Cataclysm songs. It was
No,
just
no.
straight in there, man.
There was no appetizer. It was just like go full edge, and it's just the way we felt, you know. And it came out that way, and when we were finished with the record, like, holy fuck, you know, it's like this is going to be a pounding record. And it has its moment where you're thinking what's going on, you know, but in the end, the delivery is a very, very aggressive one. Also, the vocals to me have been like way more passionate on this record.
Mm.
I had a lot to say. You know, we use music as therapy in Cataclysm. It's not just, that's why we got so many records. You know, if it wasn't a passion, if it wasn't for therapy, I think you'd release a record every 5 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for us, it's therapy. We need to do the output, and some people punch a punching bag or something, and I go in the studio. You know what I mean? So that's, for me, that's the way we are as a band. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I definitely noticed the difference between this album and Unconquered. But in between, you've done a few other things. You did Invictus, of course, which is a solo project.
Yeah.
What did you learn about doing that record on your own, as having full control? I guess you would say full. You're at the wheel versus Cataclysm. What did you bring into this record from that record?
So on the Invictus, it was really a record that I went kind of deep into myself, and putting that out. So on the delivery of the record, everything happened the way I wanted. But we had numerous issues with the record label putting it out, and weird stuff happened around it. Some places it got taken down. There was all kinds of weird things. We're living a really weird era right now. So I don't know if it was directly because of that, but there was a lot of complications around the record. So it didn't go where it needed to go, but the message was sent, and I think that I did what I needed to do for that album. But again, it was like you said, it was an individual effort with the help of other people. Of course, JF also always contributes because he's my boy. I'm going to always work with him. But then when we turned around, focused on Cataclysm, I brought the subject on the table, and I said to everybody, "What do you guys think?" And it's like, we all feel the same here. Go for it. So it's pretty much, us against the machine. Pretty much, that's what Goliath's about.
Was there anything? This might be a bit of a long bow to draw here, but you touched on it about maybe the chemistry wasn't 100% where it needed to be for the Unconquered record. And I can't help but notice that Invictus is basically Latin for Unconquered. So was this a little way of you putting to bed some of the things you didn't get to do on that record?
A little bit, and it's just I think that the Unconquered was written pre-pandemic, right? So it had all the issues or the world we were living in before as we were coming in, and then it got released during the pandemic. So it's not as truthful in the sense of what happened in the last few years. So when this record came out, it was just like a kind of a rebirth of the band. You know what I mean? With a new member, and then with a new outlook on things. Because when you're on speed dial all the time, like we are mostly in our lives, we do our routines, we do our things every day. We don't think, we don't look, we don't do anything. This we were forced to stop. We were forced to look at everything. And I think it opened the eyes of a lot of people on which, especially you guys down there, especially you guys in Australia and New Zealand, you got it hard. And I was like, I couldn't believe certain things. It don't feel real to me, and this is where, you start questioning things. And as musicians, especially metalheads, we're conditioned to ask questions. We're nonconformists. We are people that are outcasts in general. Already listening to metal, you're different, so it's like, and then when we get together concerts, and in that concert we are finding each other, from all over the world, from all creeds, from all races. Don't matter, you're in there for a reason. It's called metal, and I think that's a great thing that's still alive, and we're lucky for that. But this pandemic really lit up something in me. I felt that there's two things that are very important to me and to my guys, and it's the freedom to express yourself. It's the freedom to of speech, very important, and the freedom of choice. These are three things, because it's your body. Whether it's anything, you should have the choice. So I didn't like the forcing of things, and this to me is kind of where Goliath started coming together. Like the idea that we are in that type of scenario now in the world. And it's not just that. That's what's scary. It's a lot of things. So I wanted to bring that to the table. And as soon as I brought the concept on the table, everybody was like, "This is the perfect record for now." So I was like, So I was like, and it came out of a conversation I was having in my backyard with some buddies, drinking beers, and some wine also, as I'm Italian, I'll drink some of that. And some guy, one of my friends said, hey, he's like, dude, we're living in a modern day David versus Goliath situation. And I was like, boom,
There's your trigger.
he triggered it. So I was like, okay, this is the title. Because we were writing the record, I didn't have it yet. And then I was like, that's it, because the idea was going towards that anyways, so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because you've pulled another David versus Goliath story out of history, and that's the story of the assassination of King Richard I. Which features across a couple of songs, "Die as a King" and "Bringer of Vengeance" as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, how close were you to this whole album being about King Richard I, or how close was that to being one song, one big song?
Well, it's. I didn't want to do the whole record about that. Record deals with a lot of different things, right? But they all relate to the same thing, that you have to fight those demons, no matter what they are. They might be real, might be internal. So, Dark Wings of Deception is about that. It's fighting and killing the demon, the inner demon, and because that's the fear. So it's the same thing as everything else. If you're afraid, that's your Achilles heel, right? That's the thing that's going to take you down. If you're unafraid and you're happy in your life and who you are, as 100% confident in who you are, what you think and you believe in, nothing's going to hurt you. Even if you lose things, even if in the end you'll die happy, in a sense, and what I mean by that, complete. And I think that's the thing, the idea behind Die as a King. Because it's like he knows he was defeated. He knows he was going to die there, but he stood his ground until the end. This is who I am. I'm going to fight you till the end. And at the same time, protected his son, which became the prince, and then later took his revenge, and it's like, and that's another story because it's about patience. It's about, you got to earn it. You're going to have to train. That's like, right today, everybody's given everything. And it's like, here you go. Don't worry about it. You don't have to work out for it. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do nothing. Here it is on a platter. But that's not the way the world works. So it's a false thing. And I don't like that they're promoting things like that. Whoever it is on the top, I'm not mentioning names, whatever. Everybody can do the research. But there's something going on the top that are pushing everything down and telling people, it's okay to fuck up, and it's okay to be like this. And it's like, it's not the reality, So that, at least that's, for me, was the trigger to Goliath,
Yeah, and I mean, at what point when you've got a project like this, so you've got the David versus Goliath idea, you've got some song ideas. At what point does this whole thing, I guess, go 360 for you, and you start thinking about artwork? Because I thought the Eleran Cantor cover, it echoed some Gustav Doré type stuff. It had that real old world feel about it. At what point are you starting to think about that in the creative process for you?
So basically, you're getting into the situation where you're calling your record David and Goliath, or Goliath, because I was working on both ideas, and then I decided to go with Goliath because I want to emphasize on the machine. So I decided I'm going to go all metal on this, and I'm going to do it like that. But you're going on a biblical story. So if you're going to do something biblical or historic or ancient, you got to go with an artist that's going to replicate that. And Eleran Cantor is the best at that stuff. I think he's number one when it comes to, taking somebody and bringing them back in time. And I want to ask them to make it on a modernized version of that story. I want it simple. I want the idea to be there. And the beginning, I thought David was a bit too big when he wrote it. I said, you got to make that guy smaller because the battle's really hard. So we worked on that stuff together, and he did a fabulous job. And I looked at it, man. It reminded me of our record Shadows and Dust, the colors, the red, the orange, and all that stuff. You made it fiery. It makes you think, and it's a badass metal cover. I think, it'll look really cool in a shirt.
Yeah.
So it all works out. So I was like, this is it. And he was the right guy.
Yeah, he was the right guy. He did a fantastic job. You guys did a great job on the record too. And there's a guy whose name used to be synonymous with heavy records, and that's Colin Richardson. And I see that he might not have been hands on, but he certainly was ears on this record as well. I mean, he's a great guy to have on side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so he worked on the Unconquered record for the first time with us. He also worked on my Invictus record a little bit, like a little 3 minute type of thing. Hey, do this, do that. But on this record, it was mainly Chris Clancy that worked it. But at the end, he still, came in for the mix and worked on a few things. He put his little magic touch he does all the time. I mean, this is a classic guy, and I think he's in the 60s now, so he can't really do records like he used to be. But he does come in with the little things like, I think you could do this on your bass. It's like, and I mean, look at those guitar tones. It sounds so big. And, those guys together are a really big team. But even Chris Clancy on his own is an incredible producer. So, and he's not doing many records right now, and I think he's a gem. So, I think he's going to explode as a producer. Cool to see.
Yeah, very cool to see. It can't hurt having Colin Richardson in your area, the teacher showing you the ropes, young Padawan.
Him and then Sneap. Yeah, both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So
yeah.
there you go. It's
Yes.
like full English, like the best producers.
Yeah, it gets no better. It gets no better. Maurizio, thank you very much for your time. Congratulations on a fantastic record, Cataclysm, Goliath. It is out August 11. Go buy it. Do yourself a favor.
Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you, man, like always. Thank you.